The first time I told a stranger that I traded Forex, the response was not how does it work or how much money do you make from it. The response was Forex, no be that scam thing. And that itself set the tone for the conversation, right? Because instead of trying to show him how it works and telling him how he could benefit from it, I ended up doing this lecture where I was basically trying to convince this guy that FX is not a scam. There are problems in FX that every newbie trader faces, regardless of what location you're in, regardless of where you're in the world. There are specific problems that are general, right? That are not unique to anybody. But then there are also problems that are uniquely Nigerian. And this is something I want to talk about. The other day I was talking to one of my friends, and the conversation was not even about FX, it was about AI and how there's this friction, should I say gap, between when technologies come out and when they get adopted in Nigeria. So technology comes out, it gets adopted abroad, they start using it for productivity or for making money abroad, and then it takes like 5 to 10 years before we end up having it here and utilizing it in the same manner that they do over there. So that was what the conversation was about, but it somehow brought me back to the to my space, the FX space itself. And I started thinking about all the problems that aspiring traders and traders who have been in the space for extended periods face, that are uniquely their problem because they're in Nigeria. So uniquely Nigerian Forex problems. So I have thought about five five that I feel like impacts FX traders the most. And the first one is the obvious one, the scam stigma. And this one is unfortunate because from no fault of our own, we find ourselves in a place where it is big business being a scammer, and it is known worldwide that okay, there's this specific location where lots of people tend to engage in this activity. So by no fault of our own, we end up being put in the same box as these people that are doing these things. So that's one layer to it. But there's also the fact that we've had lots of Ponzi schemes over the years. Companies who come to people and ask for money, quote unquote, investments. These investments, instead of being put into investment vehicles, they end up using the money that one person is paying to pay the next person, literally now, pyramid scheme. And we've had lots of these pyramid schemes over the years. And unfortunately, too, when it comes to the pyramid schemes, most of the time, the quote unquote business ideas or business investments that they end up mentioning is, oh, we are going into Forex. So they use the Forex space itself. Most of them don't even have the knowledge of what happens in the Forex space, but then it's this widely used business investment term for people who end up engaging in Ponzi schemes. They're like, you're putting your money in Forex, so we give you 50x return, or you can come back in 2 months and get 100% of your money. These people have poisoned the narrative of what it means to be in this space. You can imagine being someone who has invested money in these things and then someone coming to talk to you about FX, right? Most of our natural reactions would probably be, I'm not interested in this thing again. I lost money the previous time doing dash, dash, and dash, dash. They've poisoned the space. They've poisoned the idea of what it means and what the possibilities are for lots of people. We also have within this element of scamming the fake gurus in the space. in the FX space itself. So these people are the ones operating within the space. They are not external negative factors, they are internal negative factors. We've had lots of, and if you've been in this space for a while, you've seen lots of stories and seen lots of individuals come and go. But yeah, the space itself is filled with people who claim to know what they're doing without knowing what they're doing. And for newbies, it's difficult to distinguish between who is actually capable and who is regurgitating information that is readily available out there and just packaging it in such a way that it looks like it's their information without doing any proper work or without having the knowledge or the results to back up their educational content. I think for a legitimate person who is getting into the space and who has been operating in the space and doesn't like the stigma of the scam, there isn't much you can do. It's you ignore it. You should soak yourself in the FX community itself. If people feel like, oh, this thing they're doing is a scam, if you know wholeheartedly that you're not trying to scam anybody and what you're doing is legitimate, there isn't really a need for you to be trying to prove points to people. You're not doing it for people. You didn't start this for the sake of people. So you should keep grinding, and then hopefully the results you get would do the speaking for you. You don't need to be going back and forth with people about this. The second Nigerian specific challenge that I thought about has to do with cultural barriers and family pressure too. This one has to do with deep-rooted expectations of Nigerian parents or deep-rooted cultural expectations that you should somehow pursue a safe career, right? And anything beyond that is you going against the grain. So when you have people who see a certain way, they want you to do something, they have certain ideas of how things should be done. See you do something they don't agree with, it would be accompanied with skepticism. So if you're telling somebody that doesn't believe in what you're doing, the natural reaction too would be skepticism and discouragement. So you can imagine being somebody just starting in this space, and instead of having, you're already dealing with all these things, you're dealing with the psychological part of things, the losses and whatnot, but then you're having to deal with people being skeptical of what you're doing and people trying to discourage you because they do not understand that part. It's easy to say things like be disciplined or show up every day, be strong, when you have those elements working against you. And for most of us, I think that is one that we can relate with, because again, it is a very, very nascent industry. It's a very new industry here. It's not something that is popular. It's not something that people have seen as being successful historically. So for you to just come and be like, oh, this is what I am doing as an occupation, there's this, there's still this stigma or taboo attached to it. I should be doing something else apart from it. But with this one, what you should be doing is you should be immersing yourself in the community. You should find like-minded individuals, because the problem is how much information you're hearing. If you're hearing constant negative information, then you will get to a point where you would lose interest in what you're doing. So it's important to find community and people who are on a similar journey to you, and be in those communities, absorb their motivation, and then give people motivation to people that might be going through similar things as you are. Share ideas and be your brother's keeper, quote unquote. So yeah, this one is definitely one where you would need communities to help you with. You don't need to learn everything alone. You don't need to be alone to be successful. It's okay to reach out to people, and when the times are hard, it's easier to go through those things when you have people who have been through it and people who are also going through it. You people can be this codependent support system to help each other through the journey. So yeah, when it comes to the cultural skepticism and the family pressure, you can only drop your head and keep walking, and again immerse yourself in communities, and hopefully you'll be all right. The third stigma or problem that is uniquely Nigerian that I thought about is the get rich quick mentality that we tend to associate with FX. And this one is again, I don't even think this one is uniquely Nigerian, but I felt it was important to include this one in there. When it comes to most of our exposure to the forex market itself, almost every single one of us comes with this idea that you're supposed to be. The idea is you learn for a few months and then after that you're printing money. Nothing can be further from the truth. We tend to see it as this hobby where you can print money as opposed to learning a skill set that will take years for you to reap the benefits of. So it's overnight wealth rather than building something tangible. This one is a trap because if you don't get over that mindset quick, you find yourself failing a lot. Or not just failing a lot, failing for extended periods. So it's important for you to, for us, so it's important for us to recognize that this is a skill set we are building. And this skill set will take a long while before we are able to get to a point where it can be profitable. And once you believe in that, once you see it for what it is, a skill to be learned as opposed to something you are just going to dabble in and then make lots of money. And you're comfortable with it. You're comfortable with that idea that it's not going to be quick. It will take time. Once you get to that point, that's where the learning starts. But again, most of us come into this space with because the attraction usually when it comes to this space is we see lots of money being quote unquote printed. So we feel like we just need to learn one or two things and we would get to that stage too and do the whole printing as opposed to it being a skill set to be learned deeply before you get to that point where you can consistently make money from the markets. So yeah, this one is a very dangerous trap to fall into. And if you don't let go of that idea early, or if you don't let go of that idea at all, you find yourself failing constantly because you would want to do things that are impossible, that do not reflect the realities of the market, and you find yourself at zero constantly. You think you're learning, but because of that idea that I have that it's supposed to be now and it's supposed to be a lot, you find yourself coming back to zero constantly. So with that, it's more of just changing the mindset of itself, realizing that again, it's a skill set, not some random, oh, okay, game where if you just learn, you get to do things easily. It's not going to work that way. Accept it, and embrace the learning process too. Enjoy it. Enjoy the learning process. The fourth one is information pollution. This I also don't feel like is uniquely Nigerian, but important to talk about. We live in the age of Google and the internet. There is an abundance of information, and on the one hand, it is a good thing, but on the flip side, you can get the overload of information. So you can learn to the point where, okay, you don't know what to filter out, or you can also be learning bits and pieces from different places without actually making up coherent images, right, or coherent ideas in your head. So the information pollution part can be dangerous if you don't know how to go about managing the information itself. So as much as you can have all this information, it can also be useless because you don't know how to manage the information. You have millions of traders teaching different courses and different trading concepts. So it's easy for people who are new into the space to be overwhelmed with all the information. There needs to be, and with this one, I don't even know how to go about it because you find what you relate to, find what speaks to you, find what you feel like fits the kind of person you are personality wise, whether that's the strategy we're talking about or the trading concept or the person that's teaching themselves. Find someone you relate to, find a concept that you relate to. If you want to consume everything that's out there, you would end up with this information overload and you will not know what to do with that information. So it's very important to be able to structure what you're learning, not just consume everywhere or consume everything. As much as it might seem like that's the way to go, that somehow you'd be more knowledgeable the more you consume. You need to at first consume as much as possible, but then get to a point where you're filtering out information and reducing what is not important for you. Whether it's whether if you found a concept, see what fits that concept, see what is relevant to that concept, and take away what is not relevant to the concept itself. Information is good. How you aggregate that information and how you consume that information is more important than the information itself. If not, if you don't know how to consume it and how to aggregate it properly, it just becomes noise and it fills up your head without actually having a positive use case. So how we consume information is very important. The people we choose to follow, the concepts we choose, how much we are consuming. The final one is one I call the psychological tax. It's elements of all the previous ones and the side effects of them. The mental burden that has to do with self doubt, not knowing whether you're going the right direction, not having the pointers towards the right direction, questioning whether this journey that you embarked on is the right one, wondering how much suffering you would need to go through in order to be profitable, constantly questioning your knowledge and everything you've accumulated up to that point, and lots of other cascading problems that cause you to have that self doubt to be like, is this even possible? You also have that urge, that pressure to prove that what you've embarked on works, not just to the outside world, and not just to everybody that feels like it's not going to be possible or who have problems with it, but to yourself too. The biggest person you want to prove a point to is usually yourself. So there's that pressure too of wanting to prove that point, of saying, yes, this thing that I started was the right thing to do. And looking back and saying, it was worth it. So self doubt, pressure to prove it works. And one of the biggest ones that people don't talk about or even realize is isolation. This is a very, very lonely industry. From the way you learn to the way you carry yourself in the market, most of the things you're doing is lonely. It's not one of those where you're going into a workspace. You're not, even the learning process is like for most of us, usually done alone. You're going to YouTube to watch videos. and learning on your own. So for people who are in communities, you should be deeply appreciative of those communities, because one of the hardest parts of all this is the isolation itself. When you go through problems, you have to deal with them alone. When you don't know something, you have to learn it on your own. And the failures are emphasized, you take them alone. If you're not in a space where there are people who operate in the industry, you don't have similar people around you, people who operate in the FX space, it can be very difficult. And the worst part about this one is most people don't even realize that they're struggling with it. They're struggling with the isolation of learning this skill set alone and having to execute this skill set alone too. So yeah, when it comes to the psychological tax, it's self-doubt, the pressure to prove to people that this journey you embarked on would be a rewarding one, and to most importantly prove to yourself to that pressure. And then problems that come with isolation, problems that come with learning alone and having to deal with all the burdens and all the struggles alone. With the psychological tax, the best way we can deal with it too is communities, speaking to people, talking to people, even if it's not people who are in your space, just people who understand, people who are intelligent, who you can talk to about things. They don't need to know all the details, but then they can help you navigate these things. So when it comes to anything that is psychological, I would advise that it's either you find communities or find people you can talk to, but don't try to handle them alone. And of course, it translates into the isolation one too. Solution for that: don't try to handle isolation alone. Don't get yourself to a point where you're isolated in your journey, regardless of where you are in that journey. Make sure you have people around you, and most importantly, find communities of like-minded individuals who are either day trading or into entrepreneurship in general, that you can talk to about your struggles. There isn't a quick fix, but then you don't have to carry those problems alone. There are problems that could, when you share them, even if it's not direct solutions, people can help you navigate them. So as far as the uniquely Nigerian problems are concerned, we can already see a pattern. The solution is community. Try as much as possible to reach out to people, interact with people, have people who are on similar journeys with you, or even if it's not on similar journeys or the same space, just speak to people about the journey you're going through. Do not be in isolation. Understand that your struggles are not unique to you, as much as they might be unique to us Nigerians, like the scamming and the cultural barriers and all. They are not unique to you. There are people going through similar journeys. All you have to do is reach out, and hopefully, a part of that burden would be lifted. Maybe not everything, but then baby steps, right? So we're not trying to find the solutions, we're not trying to solve things 100%, but any positive we can get would go a long way towards our journey, towards keeping us in that journey, and also help in helping us maintain perspective about what we are doing and the space we're in. So if you have other uniquely Nigerian problems you feel like I didn't speak about in this video, comment them. Let me know your experiences when it comes to these things and your own unique experiences too. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe. See you in the next one.